Well, my father passed away last year, and my mom was cleaning the house. And while my mom was cleaning the house, she found, and she was moving, so there was boxing of stuff and unboxing, and so she found this manuscript, basically. And she said, "I think you should read this. I found this." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I look in it, and I said, "Oh, I guess I wrote that," because it said my name. But at the time I remembered and didn't remember, if that makes sense. It was just a weird moment for me because I saw it and it brought me to tears because it was beautiful. And my mom was like, "It's a great story. You should really look at it." So I was like, okay. So I ended up deciding okay, my mom's like, "You should do something with it. It's a great story." She just kept, saying so I just didn't know if it was even going to be possible. And found a friend of mine from college who used same publisher I'm using, Corey, and and told me, you should look at her, just propose it. Why not? So I proposed it, and she loved it, and and everything else kind of went from there. It was just. So it was lost. I mean, that's why I dedicated it to my dad, because in a lot of ways, from tragedy comes this, great joy. So.
Okay, everyone, I have the smartest guest I've ever had on my podcast. The smartest. How do you say that, Dave? How can you claim to have the smartest podcast guest? Why? Because it's in the name. Christine Smart is here on the podcast. It's in her name. What else are you going to do? You can't argue with that. From Texas, where it's marginally warm compared to Canada, where it's 87 here. 31 for Canadians, 87 for our American friends. And again, this is Canada. But Christine Smart is here. Christine, welcome
Hi.
to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I've been looking forward to this all day. You are probably the most fun and smartest guest I've ever had.
Wow. Fun. I've gotten a lot my whole life, but smart.
See? Well, you have it right in your name, so you have to live up to that, right?
I know. And being a teacher, I feel like when I tell parents that my name is Miss Smart, I'm always like, I'm not bragging. I'm just so anyway.
I love it. That is perfect. I love it. Okay, so what grades do you teach?
I teach high school.
High school.
I teach this year. I teach sophomores, but I also or 10th grade. But I actually am teaching a couple different newer classes where there's going to be a mix of kids. So I got them all.
Bless you.
Year. Yeah.
High school.
I have taught elementary, I've taught middle, and I taught high school, but I prefer the high school age.
It's actually okay.
You're
a very brave person.
Everybody's got their thing. It's some elementary school teachers are like, "I'll never teach anybody older than a fourth grader," and I'm like, no. I'm the opposite, so we're good.
That's amazing. And you are in Texas?
I am. I'm in Dallas, Texas.
So have you at any time ever said yeehaw? I'm just asking. I don't know because in Canada,
not unless it was
or y'all. Have you said
I had to be very intentional about saying yeehaw, but
okay. But
y'all all the time.
Okay.
So
there you go. So
when I lived up north, I went to college up north, and I would say "you guys" when I got back down south, and everyone was like,
"What's wrong with you?
Wrong with you? Wash your mouth out with soap." I was like, I don't know. So yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so there might be the occasional y'all that happens within this podcast.
Yes.
Okay. There might be the occasional A because I'm in Canada. Yeah. That's what we say. So we'll try to do our best to represent.
Yes, we will.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit more about you. And you're an author, so your author journey is very interesting to me. Mm-hmm. I want to get into that during the podcast. But tell me a little bit more about you.
Well, I live in Dallas, Texas. I work here. I'm a teacher. I'm married. Actually, will be married, what, 6 years this year. So it's not too, we haven't been married like way too long, as a lot of other people have.
Yeah.
And we uh, live here in Dallas. I spent a lot of time with my family. I spent a lot of time I spend a lot of time working. I like my work, so I enjoy putting myself in it. It's actually not work to some degree because I
Yeah.
love doing what I do. I like to paint. I like to exercise. I like
Sweet.
to, I'm pretty laid back. I like The Office, the show, the
Oh,
American version.
yes.
So
Okay. What about
very much.
Parks and Recreation? Have you seen that?
I never got into it. I never really started
Oh,
watching Parks and Recreations, but
okay.
I watched The Office.
Favorite character from The Office? Let's go.
I'd have to say Dwight.
Dwight. I was going to say it too. Dwight. Right?
I love him.
I love when people make fun, like do stuff like put his stapler in Jello and stuff.
I love it.
I love it. Right?
But Dwight's one of my favorites. Yes.
Without naming any names, have you worked with a Dwight before?
I
You
mean,
can just nod if it's okay.
Slight parts of Dwight. Yes.
Dwight, yeah. So if you were on The Office,
Okay,
where would your desk be in relation to everybody else? Who would you be sitting next to?
right next to who'd I sit next to? I'd probably sit next to Jim.
Okay.
So I could hang out with him and Pam and make
Yeah,
fun.
right. You'd be in that group.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cool kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would probably be back in that corner off to the side with a sales team. That's they're like way, way, way in the corner. Yeah, that's probably where I would be. Yeah.
Right.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a great show. I love The Office. Yeah, it's so much fun to watch that show.
Yeah.
Great. See, we got stuff in common already. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about your writing. Like, what got you into writing? Why was that interesting to you? And what was it that day you woke up and said, I got to write a book. I think I'm going to do this.
Well, I've always written. And I could say when I started to look back, like when the book got published and I started to like look back and I was like, how often, because I got this question a lot. Like I would get it if I get interviewed or if I get somebody ask me like, when did you start writing? I have to think about it now. And I'm like, well, I think I've always written. I have old journals of just me writing about my life and about where I've been and what I've been through and everything. And I haven't sifted through in a long time. But I mean, I went back to when I was in grade school and I had written then, like when I was a little kid. They used to like bind books, just for fun for kids. And like I found one like when I was like little that they'd made and I they bound and I had written one then and I always wrote. And I think it was just my way of expressing myself. Now that I think about it in hindsight, like I express myself better when I write and I always have. And I just, maybe I can't always articulate myself. I do okay face to face, but I do better, I think, when I am able to write a letter or write, something reflective. I can get that out on paper. So for me, my book, I didn't really wake up. I don't know if I woke up and said I'm going to write a book because I never thought I could be published. I mean, to be honest, I thought for me, it was just another piece of writing. It's just another thing I was writing. So I was inspired. I really feel like it was inspired. And I woke up one day, I guess, I don't know, but I had a friend in college who could really just, since they were little, could just play the guitar, just really beautifully play music. And I was really, and I, from there have always been, and even before that, really impressed with people who just like are in the zone, when they're like in their world, musically. Or there's this movie called The River Runs Through It that I always think of, like with Brad Pitt. And it's not because of Brad Pitt, but it helps, but it's not because, but when they're fly fishing and they're just in the zone, and they woke up, even if they didn't sleep, just to do it. And, I've always found that beautiful. Like, it's just, that's somebody's God-given like talent. That's their gift. That's their love. That's their passion. And so for me, I just kind of, I guess, took it and ran with it. for me, I feel like it's very divinely inspired in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
Like this is my gift that God gave me, and
Yeah,
to be able to put this together. So,
it's amazing. I love hearing everyone's origin story, and I love the creative process. I
mhm.
love, like you said, people finding their zone of genius, whatever, however you want to describe it. But they just that time where you can be creative and time just kind of stands still and it's not forced. It's just flows and
Right.
you
Yeah.
lose track of time and you're like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for how long? I love that feeling.
Hmm.
It's so amazing. And then the musical side too, that's another side that I love. I'm a musician. Um, what is it about music for you that just captivates you?
I have always loved music, and I've always kind of loved how there's a perfect song for a perfect moment
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. It's like we're writing. I think musicians, I think songwriters have a very beautiful like gift in that they really speak the words that a lot of people can't for
Yeah.
themselves. Like they articulate other people's feelings,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. And it's really and I've always been, just music in itself, like movement of music and everything. And so I don't know, I've always just loved music in general. I think the guitar, drums, everything, like it's always been cool how it all kind of intertwines and makes this beautiful like this beautiful like book for
Yeah.
themselves. The song is the book for the musician.
Yeah, you see these like two, three, four people on stage, and you hear the sound, and you're like, how is all of that sound
I know.
coming from those few people and filling this big arena or big space, and
Right.
thousands of people are here for this moment? And it's
Hmm.
just so I've heard that music is the soundtrack of our life,
Yeah.
right? I've heard that
Yeah.
before. I would say music is a soundtrack of our life, but the books are the movie. What do you think? I just kind of while you were talking, I'm like, yep, that's a thing. That's that thing. So yeah, that's kind of it, right?
Yeah, that
Because
makes
you
sense.
can hear a song and it takes you somewhere. You can read a book, it takes you somewhere,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
it's equally creative. And that's like for me, for creating this podcast, like I'm not an author, but I'm a musician, but I love speaking to authors because the creative process is quite similar.
Hmm.
So I
I
see that
agree.
overlap there is right. So um there's some musical history for you personally, right? Going back in time?
Well, yeah, I mean, I play some guitar.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I play well, but I know that I could do that 6 chords. I mean,
There you
five,
go. Well,
5 or 6 chords,
that's good.
and that's about it. I mean, it kind of stopped where that. I mean, I played a little bit. I learned. I kind of taught myself. Like I got the chord pictures, and I put
Yep.
my fingers where they were supposed to go, and
See,
learned to strum.
there
It
you
was
go.
that's as far as my musical career went.
Yeah.
um, I would have loved to play a violin, and so that's kind of where this kind of goes to.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Nice segue, by the way.
um,
Yes.
I would have loved to play the violin in my life. I think I was just I never got into it. It was always expensive to join like band and all
Yeah.
those programs and
All those things,
all
right?
those things that schools offered, but you're like, um, at least at the time, like my school offered it, and they were, but it was so expensive, and I was like, am I really going to follow through with all this?
Yeah.
As a kid, you're like, I want to do this forever, and that's like 5 minutes. So
Right. Yeah. So tell me, so this is your great segue to your book,
yeah.
the name of your book, and it incorporates music. And also, one thing I want to touch on that we chatted about earlier was there's a point in time where this story was lost
Mhm.
and found again. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. So, talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the
yeah.
book first. Let's talk about the title.
Okay, the rings that sing. Okay,
Yes, you have a copy right there. You right
I
there. Of
do.
course you do. Look at that right there.
There you
Awesome,
go.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great. I love when authors hold up their books. By the way,
Oh.
that's a proud moment right there.
Um, it is about a little girl who has a dream of playing a violin, and she didn't have a violin, and then she was gifted a violin, and she had this dream of it. She got this gift, and then she realized that she really couldn't play it, And so then she had a whisper came from the violin case, and this magical friend came and took her to what we call the rings that sing, she took her to Saturn, and the rings of Saturn played the keys of the scales, and so
helped her learn then.
So she learned how to play, but she was able to do it kind of innately because it was her gift.
Okay, so let's just pause on that. What you just said there, it was her gift. Expand that.
It was her gift.
Yeah.
She already had it in her. Like it was already something that she could do. Yeah. So whatever she just didn't know she could do it, and she needed that encouragement. And so it was that belief in herself that transformed everything.
I love that you've mentioned that. See, like there's so many people who struggle to create something, but when it's already there, it's just a matter of uncovering it and developing it. Right.
Right.
And that's what you're talking about. I love that. That's amazing. So tell me a little bit more about the story behind the book and the fact that it almost didn't happen.
Well, my father passed away last year, and my mom was cleaning the house.
Yep.
And while my mom was cleaning the house, she found, and she was moving, so there was boxing of stuff and unboxing, and so she found this manuscript, basically. And she said, "I think you should read this. I found this." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I look in it and I said, "Oh, I guess I wrote that," because it said my name. But at the time I remembered and didn't remember, if that makes sense. Like it was just a weird moment for me because I saw it and it brought me to tears because it was beautiful. And my mom was like, "It's a great story. You should really look at it." So I was like, okay. So I ended up deciding okay, my mom's like, "You should do something with it. It's a great story." She just kept, saying so I just didn't know if it was even going to be possible.
Yeah.
And found a friend of mine from college who used same publisher I'm using, Corey, and and told me, you should look at her, just propose it. Why not? So I proposed it and she loved it. And and everything else kind of went from there. It was just, so it was lost. I mean, that's why I dedicated it to my dad, because in a lot of ways, from tragedy comes this, great joy. So
just in case I missed it, when did you write this then originally? How long ago?
Probably I don't know, sometime after college. So let's see how old I am. It was probably 15, maybe 20 years ago.
Wow.
I wrote it a long time ago.
Had you thought about this at all in the most recently before it was found or nothing? You didn't really, it was out of your mind?
No, it was out of my mind.
Wow. So that's a pretty surreal moment then.
Yeah, it was kind of brought back to me. And then I said, you know what? I might as well take a chance and try to write the story. So, try to publish it.
Yeah.
Because I had never thought that I could publish it.
So what were some of the things that made you hesitant about having it published? Was it content? Was it length of the book or what? Anything?
I think the biggest thing for me was just that I'm no J.K. Rowling, I'm not, mine will never be good enough to be. It was more of a fear and an apprehension of my own. I didn't believe in myself at that moment, and and to kind of parallel with our main character. I didn't really believe in myself. And so in light of that, it turned into I just kind of had to take a chance. Said I'm never going to know if I don't take a chance on myself. So
that is the parallel between the story you wrote and getting it published. It's uncanny. That's quite unique. Okay, so if somebody's listening to this and they're like, Christine, I don't know if I have a voice. I don't know if my story matters. I don't know if I should try. Knowing what you know now, what would you say to them?
I always say, just don't let fear get in the way of doing what you need to do. like feel like you're not writing because you're just, I mean, you're writing for a reason, and if your voice is, if you're writing something and it's beautiful, or you feel like it's beautiful, like you go out there and you give that message to others. Our gifts are not ours to keep, like our gifts are there to share with others. And, I believe that, you know, I believe God gives us gifts and we need to share those gifts. They're never meant to keep to ourselves. Why would you have them? So my biggest thing is always, that take a chance on yourself. And I read more and more about other authors and, very more, probably self-proclaimed, like the J.K. Rowlings of our time and stuff. And they'll tell you, like, every door slammed in my face, 10 publishers told me no, and like, that's deflating. And I think that that's hard. And, but if you really feel like you have a message to share, then you should share that message,
As a teacher, as you look over your students, past and present, what is their thoughts about reading and grabbing a book and all that? Are you seeing a big switch and change in this? Like, you can speak frankly. Like, how do you?
I'm frank. I'm very frank about it. A lot of them get into reading when they find something they love.
Okay.
So I try to pick books that will engage them.
Yeah.
As well as, like, sometimes they're classics, sometimes they're not. But I try to pick things that will be engaging and also thought provoking. And sometimes they're like, yeah, I really like this, or ever since we read this book, I loved reading. You got me to love reading. I've heard that. But I think that we think that there are books that they have to read, but aren't there? I mean, I'd rather they read books that they love to read so that they know that they can continue to read. But most kids that I know want to watch their phone or their watch or, whatever. They don't really want to read.
Because, like, I look at my kids. My kids are now in their 20s. And my daughter, my middle child, she loved reading. My two boys, oldest and youngest, not so much. Video games, everything else, right? But I think if we can get them to not just maybe fall in love with a certain book, but maybe fall in love with the process of reading, I think that just opens up so many doors, right? That natural curiosity gets stoked and you don't know where that's going to lead to. And that would be my encouragement for people who are not readers. I wasn't always a reader growing up. I kind of suffered a little bit with my reading and in school. But I had teachers that came around me and just taught me about why reading was important. I think that was really important.
And also, like, I just feel like with reading that I try to, like, get them to read and then connect it to them. I mean, that's a teaching tool. Like, most teachers will say connect it to their lives and they'll take it with them. A lot of times, like, it's a best practice of a teacher, if they use that practice. But the more you connect the book to their lives, they'll love it. Yeah. They'll say, I love this book, and it's a classic novel, or it's an old book, or they love it and everything. It's just you also need to let them speak freely about the book, because they might, well, I don't understand this, or this guy seems really cool, or this character, or why is he cool? Like, why do you think? And, just to get them engage them, and they will do that. But I think following, like, no, you have to talk about setting right now. You have to talk about this. I think getting out of the box a little bit helps.
Yeah. And as we're chatting, I looked up a quote that somebody told me a long time ago, and I love it. It's something that keeps coming back in life, and it kind of relates to what we're talking about. The quote is from a saint from, like, the early 1900s. And he was a French writer and an aviator. And he said, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up people and collect wood, and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. And I'm like, well, there you go. So when it's all about reading, it's not just about all the things you have to do to love reading, but what it can lead to is dreaming about something bigger than your world right now. Absolutely. And it opens up so much, right?
And it makes them think, well, why can't I do this? Or why can't I, why can't I be a fisherman on the sea? Why can't I do certain things? I'm like, well, why can't you?
Why can't I play the violin? Right.
Like why exactly.
Why
And
can't
that's
I
why
write a book? Yeah.
and
Right.
that's why when kids tell me stuff, I'm like, well, just go do it. And they're just like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, why don't you? Why don't you do these things? So, but they don't always have that voice. I know a lot of kids where they've heard the voice of, you're not good at that.
Mm-hmm.
So quit while you're ahead. That's the voice that haunts them. That's what I hear from my students sometimes is she told me, or he told me, or that teacher told me, or in the past, having kids telling me like, my teacher told me I'm not good at this. So you know what? They're not going to be good at this.
Yeah. It becomes your ceiling, right?
Yeah. And they can't break through that until somebody breaks it and tells them the truth, which is you're actually good at this, but I mean, I mean, you're fine. Like you're going to do great. Like you're really good at this stuff. You're actually very knowledgeable. When you make them feel safe and secure and, it's okay to be who you are. I think makes a big difference, and then they have that belief in themselves and they have that drive to do whatever.
And is that how do you carry that same mentality and belief into your teaching then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was
what's that?
If I was a student in your class, that's what I would feel.
Yeah. I mean, I have fun with them, but I mean, we joke and we can have a good time and all that stuff. But, they know that if they say, I mean, I've told kids, I'm like, you're really smart. You're not using it because of whatever reason you carry, but you have the potential to do a lot. And they're usually like, really? I can? Because no one's ever really pushed them or told them, their friend, it's almost like, let's all stay this way so that we never have to do anything more than this. And you're like, you don't want to do anything more than what you're doing. It's like, no, they'll tell you, oh, I want to be a basketball player. I want to be a doctor. I want to be this. And I'm like, then you should really try hard because if these are your dreams, then do it, So I try to push them, but they've got to want it too.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
There has to be a will in there.
Yeah. Again, let's go back to the fact that your book mirrors your personal life.
Yeah.
And, it's just, I'm enjoying this so much that this book was lost and this writing was gone and out of your mind. And here it comes back again to serve you in this way. It's amazing. Any response from readers? Anything you've heard from people who've picked up the book?
Yeah, they love it. They love the pictures. They love the illustrations, which were amazingly done. And they love the story. There are multiple themes. I mean, people have just been like, it's so inspiring. Somebody, was like, my kids want to play the violin now, like nice. Just encouraging, like they very, very nice. I mean, everyone's been like, oh, it's a beautiful story. I love it. A coworker of mine was like, I read it with my kid all the time. Like we read it together, I've had some really like good encouragements, on overall.
So is this the last book for you?
For now it is. Okay. I wouldn't say it's the last book because I would like, it would be cool to write another, like a sequel or another book or kind of her adventures, but how to make it, a book that will be as awe-inspiring for me, I want it to be something as creative. And so I don't want it to, kind of flatline. So I want to be able to think through it. But for now, this is where I stand with the book.
It's got to be more. There's so many more instruments to learn. You know that, right? We need a guitar one.
One of the ideas I had was just for the idea of like, my main character now gives back what she got. Like she teaches the next, like
nice.
So, now she's the one who inspires, the person instead of being inspired. So, that's kind of an idea I'm rattling around, like brainstorming with. So, but.
Well, second book or not, you're already doing it. You're inspiring people already. So thank you for doing that.
No problem.
What is the best way for people to find the book? Is it on Amazon? Where is this book?
It's anywhere you can buy a book online. So if you you can go to Barnes and Noble, you can go to Amazon, you can go to what's it called? You can go to Target, Walmart, any of those like big chains. I found it on Books A Million, on, any, like, you can go anywhere online. They're not in stores, but it's but they are online, and so you can always purchase them there. I did some work. I went through and I was like, is it on this? Is it on this? It's like online everywhere. So anywhere if you have a gift card to Target, you could buy it on Target online, so.
It's amazing. And then before we close off too, we mentioned Corey, and I've had a chance to talk to Corey as well. Working with Corey, how was that for you?
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah. Like, and I loved working with Corey because she was so good about just, really keeping me abridged to everything. Like, just, hey, this is what's going on. This is the process. This is great. If you ever need anything. And she was always there and like very receptive and communicative. And I really appreciated that from her. Yeah. It was really, I encourage anybody to work with her, and they're in her company. So
yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
Super, super person. I love talking with her as well. Christine, do we have any homework that we can leave the class with here before we go?
Go buy the book.
Go buy the book. There you go. There you go. Is there going to be a test tomorrow? Is there no test? No pop quiz?
No. I would say go buy the book and then go follow me on Instagram. You can go to Christine Smart _author, or you can follow me on my Facebook page.
And you created a new page for your book?
Yeah, it's you can look up Christine Smart and it should say author underneath, and then you could just follow me. And then I'll post stuff and information and all sorts of goodies on there. So
amazing. Christine Smart here on the podcast, Living the Next Chapter. The teacher is here. Everyone, I hope you've paid attention. You've sat up straight. You haven't been passing notes during this or texting. I guess they do now. But thank you so much for being part of the podcast.
Oh,
love hearing the story behind your book.
Yes.
And
thank you so much.
I'm cheering you on for the next one. I know it's going to happen.
I've heard it a few times, so I may take that as a push for the next one. Okay.
No pressure. No, but I'd love to hear the next one. And if that happens, I'd love to have you back to talk about the next one. Keep us in mind, okay?
I will, for sure. Thank you so much.
And to Corey, I know you might be listening. Thank you for helping.
Thank you, Corey.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Hey guys, thank you for listening to the podcast. Jump over to livingthenextchapter.com, our website, and you will see a spot where you can leave a voice message. We'd love to hear your feedback. We're trying to make it as easy as possible to hear from you. So if you want your voice on this podcast, yes, that's possible. Go to livingthenextchapter.com, click the little microphone icon, leave a voice message. And we'll insert your message into the podcast. Tell us where you're listening from. Tell us your favorite guest. Maybe there's a guest we should have on the podcast. Maybe you should be our next guest. Leave us a message at livingthenextchapter.com. Again, thank you so much for listening. Please share this podcast episode with one person. That's all we're asking. Meet you over there at livingthenextchapter.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. I'd love to hear from you. Till the next episode. It's coming up right away. Be sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you for being part of Living the Next Chapter. Thank you for supporting our guests. Have a great day.